Hi, Misha Gill, Speedwell Law. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the considerations that come into play when you are establishing an advance directive, an advance medical directive. And so the first thing I want to do is establish the difference between a living will, a living trust, and a will, and an advance directive, in the context of an advance directive. So a living will is a declaration, a directive to your agent that says, if my doctor determines that I have a terminal illness where the application of artificial life-sustaining procedures would serve only to delay the dying process, then I direct that such artificial procedures be removed and that I be allowed to die naturally. And so what we're contemplating in that scenario is the Terri Schiavo situation. Now, to refresh your memory about Terri Schiavo, she lived in Florida and she was in a persistent vegetative state. Her husband wanted to remove the feeding tube and the hydration. Her family thought that she had a chance of recovery because one of her relatives alleged that she smiled at her. And so there was a disagreement that went all the way to the Supreme Court of Florida. And ultimately, the husband won at court and gained the right to remove her artificial life-sustaining procedures. And so he won the fight and managed to pull the plug. Now, what you're doing when you establish a living will is you are taking that decision out of your agent's hands and you're saying, I direct you to remove those artificial life-sustaining in the procedures if I'm ever in that situation where I have a terminal illness as confirmed by my doctor. And I would die without artificial life-sustaining procedures. And so, you know, you're basically saying, pull the plug, I don't want to linger, if I'm going to go, it's my time, let me go. All right, so that's what a living will is, and it's completely different than a will or a living trust. Those are testamentary documents that serve to distribute assets. Living will regards the kind of treatment that you are going to receive if you're ever in the Terri Schiavo situation. All right. So that's the living will. Let's talk about the advance directive. The advance directive is where you're appointing a person to make healthcare decisions if you are ever unable to make an informed choice, right? And so there's a couple scenarios that we contemplate when it comes to advanced medical directives. One, obviously, persistent vegetative state. But similarly, two, you might be unavailable to make an informed decision because you're under anesthesia and you want to appoint someone who's going to make a choice between a couple different types of surgery. So say the surgeon comes to your agent and says, we have two procedures that we can do to save your life. One of them has been shown to increase the likelihood of survival, but is less likely to lead to a full recovery and high quality of life. The second procedure is more experimental and isn't shown to be as likely to save your life, but is more likely to lead to a high quality of life if they survive. So what you need to do when you establish an advance directive and select your agent is make sure that that agent's values and judgment are going to align with yours, and that person is going to know what you would have wanted in that scenario. And you know, it's critically important that you choose the right person. Another consideration in selecting an advanced medical directive agent is proximity. Maybe your child is the person that you want to serve, but they live in California, you're here in Virginia. You got to keep in mind that it's going to take them, 12 hours to get by your side. You're going to want someone who is able to make a decision about your healthcare treatment sooner than that 12-hour delay in the event that, something catastrophic has happened. So keep that in mind. Another reason you might be unavailable to make an informed decision is if you are incapacitated. And what we're thinking about here is the scenario where you've come down with dementia. Now, dementia is a cruel disease. It is truly cruel. Your care, if you have dementia, is going to entail housing decisions, where you live, because the setting in which you live determines the care that you receive. And so you're going to want to appoint an agent who knows your wishes. Now, you might be the kind of person who is a realist and says, I know I'm getting older, I want a community where I can age in a dignified way, but in a way that's appropriate for my level of need. So, I wanted independent living first, and then I want assisted living, and then, later we'll talk about other things. You can do that. There are a lot of choices in the market now for assisted living facilities and retirement communities. But maybe you're the kind of person that wants to live in their home for as long as it's medically reasonable. And the cost of in-home health care is of secondary importance to you. So you might need to choose someone who knows that about you and is going to have the guts to keep you in your home for as long as it's medically reasonable, because it does entail more work living at home and managing someone's care from home. It's much more efficient to do that in a retirement community setting. So that's the final consideration that I would put to you if you are selecting an advanced medical directive agent. Thanks for watching.